Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Hope that you are having a fabulous day so far. My name is Cyreta Laws-Frumau. I am a performance and mindset mentor coach with the Proctor Gallagher Institute. And I am going through the book Think and Grow Rich. Now, we are still on chapter 6, the topic of imagination. Now, Think and Grow Rich is a 1937 classic where Napoleon Hill interviewed over 500 men, successful men at the time. Um, they used the principles in this book to gain a fortune and to gain riches. So that burning desire. So we started at um, the first step towards riches, and the chapter of imagination is the fifth step towards riches. My mentor, the late Bob Proctor, read this book for over 60 years. He used it to change his life. He was unhappy, unhealthy, sick, and broke. And his mentor, Ray Stanford, recommended this book to him to read it every single day. And he did that for over 60 years. He has mentored me using using the principles in these books along with other success success what would we say success ideas as well. But this book remained one of his favorites for his entire life. So it is only fitting, it's only right that we go through this book together. I really, really love this book, and it's a book that you actually have to go over several times, but it's a very powerful book. So we already started at we already started with chapter 6 in our last video. And so, you know, I just wanted to remind you that you can accept this information or you can reject it. But the idea of imagination got us to the moon. It has enabled us to achieve a lot of the conveniences that we enjoy in this earth. It has provided us with the modern conveniences and the power of imagination. We all have an imagination, but how do we use it? How well do we act on the ideas that are coming to us through our imagination? Just to recap, you can create anything you want. You can achieve your burning desire by using your synthetic imagination to make plans and then execute them. So ideas do come to us, but we don't normally, we don't always act on our ideas. And so maybe we haven't enjoyed the benefits that our imagination and the impact our imagination can have on our lives. So I hope that this will inspire you to take action towards the things that you want, to your burning desire. We also mentioned that there are two forms of imagination. There's synthetic imagination, where we use our skills, our experiences, our education, and our observation to put them. So it's old ideas that we bring together so that they can solve a problem for us. And then there's a creative imagination that comes through the form of a hunch or an inspired thought. And we say that comes from infinite intelligence, it comes from God, it comes from source, it comes from spirit, it comes from the supreme, the invisible. And Napoleon told us that, if we haven't been using this faculty, if we haven't been using our imagination, which is also one of the higher faculties, we have 6 higher faculties that we know of. Imagination is one of those. If we have not been using this faculty, it doesn't mean that we've lost it. It only means that it's dormant. So we want to start using our imagination and we want to start developing it. It's just like a muscle. If we haven't used the muscle, then atrophy sets in. It makes it a little bit more difficult to use it, but it doesn't mean that we are not able to use it. So all is not lost. We just want to start using this this higher faculty to the best that we can. And how can we use it? We use it when a desire comes to us. We act on it through plans, to making a plan and taking action. Scientists have told us that there are two forms of, there are two elements rather. There is matter and there is energy. And a thought is an energy, okay? So a thought impulse, that's energy. And matter is the representation of that energy. It's the thing that we're thinking that presents itself in the physical. So that's matter. So let's say you have a thought to earn $1 billion. The $1 billion is the matter. So it's also important that we're more aware of what we are thinking, because what we're thinking will manifest itself. Now, like we've been doing, let's outline the 3 concepts again in this book. And I basically just spoke about them, so I'm just gonna say them now. 1, that we have 2 types of imagination, synthetic and creative. 2, there are 2 types of, I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted today. There are 2 types of elements. There is matter and there is energy. And 3, you can have anything you want when you use your imagination to act upon your desire to bring the equivalent, the physical equivalent. Okay, so let's get into the stories. The 3 stories that I want to mention today. The first one is the story of the enchanted kettle, where Acer Chandler actually purchased an idea in the form of a kettle, and that idea produced Coca-Cola. Now, Coca-Cola is a world-renowned drink. I'm sure you know it. I know it. But this drink is loved all over the world, and it produced a fortune. So things that we need to know about this story: it grew out of a single idea, right? When it was made by Dr. Pemberton, he did it to assist in the digestion. He did it so that persons could have more energy. And then Acer Candler purchased it from the doctor, purchased the recipe from its inventor, which is Dr. Pemberton, and he went on to amass a fortune. Something that I found really interesting about this story is the background of Acer Candler. So Acer Candler actually, he wanted to be a doctor. So Acer Candler is the one that purchased the recipe, right, from Dr. Pemberton. But Acer, or am I pronouncing it right? Acer Candler, he wanted to be a doctor, but he didn't have the money to attend medical school. And so what he became a druggist. So we see here, and this comes back to chapter 5, that he actually purchased knowledge in the form of an invention. So even though he didn't have the skills maybe to achieve the formula that Dr. Pemberton did, he saw something that caused him to act upon. So an idea that he acted upon. and he actually purchased the knowledge. So I think that is awesome. It's really amazing when you think of it in that regard. So that's the first story, the story of Coca-Cola. The second story actually has to do with Dr. Gonzalez. No, Dr. Gonzalez was a preacher, and he is famous for his $1 million sermon. So he had this $1 million idea to start a school, and he wrote a sermon and attracted an investor. He didn't have the money, but he had this idea that he wanted to start the school. And because he was a preacher, he wrote a sermon that he was going to use the sermon to attract an investor. And guess what? The moment, so what Napoleon said, he said the moment that Dr. Gonzalez made a definite decision that he was going to perform this sermon, he received his $1 million investment within 36 hours. So that's roughly 3 days. That's no 36 hours. That's like less than 2 days. So a day and a half. Within 36 hours, he got this investment. And this was in 1890. 1890, getting an investment of $1 million. That is huge. I think sometimes we think $1 million is, even today, I think a lot of people think $1 million is a lot of money. But here is this man who grew up poor, just had this idea. He didn't have the money. He didn't know how he was going to get it. Yet he attracted the investors. So if you have an idea, it is possible that you too can attract an investor just by sharing your idea at the right time. So I think this doctor was inspired. He had this burning desire, but he decided that this was the time to act upon it. And he went on to found the Armor Institute, which is doing very well. The third story is a story of Andrew Carnegie, which you already know about, but for emphasis, it's here again. So Andrew Carnegie knew very little about the steel business, and yet he went on to amass a fortune from the steel business. So the summary is this: the summary of this chapter is that great fortunes start with an idea. Great fortunes, and I don't have my book today, but I do have, so on my phone, I wanted to share with you a part of the chapter where he says, ideas are, so this is the last part of this chapter, sorry. He says, ideas are intangible forces, but they have more power than the physical brains that give birth to them. They have the power to live on after the brain that creates them have returned to dust. For example, take the power of Christianity. That began with a single idea, born in the brain of Christ. Its chief tenet was, do unto others as you will have them to do unto you. Christ has gone back to the source from whence he came, but his idea goes marching on. Someday it may grow up and come into its own. Then it will have fulfilled Christ's deepest desire. The idea has been developing only 2,000 years. Give it time. And since this book has written, Christianity has grown to more corners of the world. So it has gotten its time. So what about your idea? Is there an idea, burning desire that you're thinking about that you've given up on? Remember we spoke how important persistence is. So don't give up on it yet. You can still use this idea to manifest your great fortune. And last but not least, remember that all these chapters build upon each other. So the principles from one chapter, we see them coming again into other chapters. And the main idea to get out of this chapter is to act upon your idea, act upon the thing, act upon the burning desire that is within your heart. Use your imagination. Start with a synthetic imagination, make a plan, and go for the thing that you want. That's it for me today, and I will see you in my next video. Right.